Hey there, it's April Perry from Learn, Do, Become Radio, and I'm so happy you're here with us today. We're going to be discussing what to do when a project balloons. So if you feel like that's ever happened to you, or maybe it's happening to you right now, and you want to know how to get back to calm, then we're going to talk about some specific things that you can do today. Here at Learn, Do, Become, we help people who are overwhelmed by the details of life to create simple systems so they can do what matters most. And I love having peace and calm and order and being able to be present with my loved ones. And I hope that you can feel that too as you implement the things that we talk about here on the podcast. So first, why do projects balloon? There are probably a lot of reasons, but I'll just share three. First, as you start working, you realize that there was way more involved than you knew. I don't know if you are aware of Boston's Big Dig that they did, but we were living there between 2002 and 2004. And the Big Dig was underway. And essentially, they were trying to alleviate traffic and they were putting some roads underground. But when they dug underground to put the roads there, they found that the pipes and the power lines and all the things that were underground, it was like spaghetti. So the project then became so much bigger. And then there were all these other things that happened too. I think it went like $5 billion over budget or something like that. But the project just was so much more than they thought. So that's one reason. Another reason a project might balloon is because the domino effect happens. So maybe there's an error made or challenges that end up creating more work. The image that came to mind was that movie, The Money Pit. Tom Hanks was in it. I forget who else, Goldie Hawn, I think. Anyway, they buy this house and then it turns into this money pit because everything keeps breaking. And there's one scene, I think like the bathtub falls through the bathroom floor. And then now they've got to not only fix the bathtub, but they've got to fix the floor it fell through and then all the things that it smashed into, right? And it was just one thing after another. This house was like, that movie stressed me out. I was little when I watched it. Anyway, yeah, okay. So that domino effect, that happens sometimes. Another reason why projects might balloon is because we get more ideas as we're doing the project, or maybe more opportunities come into play. So let's say you're going to travel to a city where you used to live and you think, oh, as long as we're traveling to the city, why don't we plan a gathering with all our old friends? Oh, wait, and one of them has a birthday party. So let's do a bigger surprise party with everyone we ever knew from that area. And then all of a sudden, this one little trip turned into a big, huge party and it's great. And I'm not saying it's wrong if you get new ideas or more opportunities come, but the project now is going to be bigger. And so then what do you do? I have three ideas that have been helpful to me when a project has ballooned. And so I'll just dive in and share those here. And then if you have more ideas, please come share them in the comments. The thing is, like, we know we can't control everything, so I'm not trying to be super controlling. But when you do get in a situation where a project does balloon, you have to do something or else you just end up frustrated and it doesn't get done or you're all stressed out. So let's try to avoid that. So number one is I recommend prioritizing simplicity and creating buffer. It's really tempting to schedule ourselves to the minute and to leave no extra space or bandwidth between our commitments. I used to do this where I would map out my day or my week, and then I had every hour, every 15-minute block completely covered. So I would make sure I was being really productive. And I mean, even right now, I've been seeing advertisements for software that enables you, if one thing gets canceled, it quickly gives you something else to do so that you are busy all the day long. And maybe that works for some people, but I just found that when I schedule myself every 5, 10, 15 minutes, especially because I'm very involved with my family, and so I'm more like that caregiver support role mode for a lot of people, things usually take way longer than I thought they would. And I end up becoming very stressed because I'm just trying to be ultra productive, but I'm not ever willing to like pause and let people into my life because people then just take time, right? And so what's worked for me is creating a really solid buffer where my rule of thumb is to plan about a third of the time that I think I have available. So if I look at my calendar and I'm like, oh, I've got 8 hours today with nothing scheduled, I only schedule in a third of that with things that are like planning to do, either appointments or things that are like scheduled meetings or even just commitments to myself. Like, oh, I'm going to work on this. I leave a lot of buffer That doesn't mean that I don't use that time to do work or tasks or other things, but I do it as it works with my energy and the circumstances. I'll work for my next actions list. I might work on a project a little more. I just keep that more flexible. So for me, that 1/3 rule has been awesome. Then I end up feeling ahead of the game instead of behind. Number 2, I recommend that we divide the ballooning project into a series of smaller projects listed by priorities. So really using the next in line and someday lists, we talk about current projects and next in line and someday projects as being like a pyramid, where at the top of the pyramid, it's a very small triangle of your current projects. And I recommend 1 to 8 projects for the month, depending on how many routines and things you already have. So let's say you have this huge project that's just ballooned. You could break that up into, let's say, 6 smaller projects. And you could have 2 for current, 3 for next in line, 1 for someday, something like that. So now instead of working on this one huge big ballooning project, you're working on 2 smaller sub-projects of that project. But the other ones you're going to look at later. You're not going to worry about doing them right this minute. And if you're thinking, well, I got to do all of them this month, well, that's fine. You can do them this month, but let's just focus on the first couple sub-projects first. Let's get those done, right? A project is multiple steps with a beginning and an end. And so typically they can be segmented fairly easily. It's just that you'd want to make sure that whatever it is that you're segmenting out into next in line or someday, that they actually are very specific projects where you wouldn't be like leaking into the other ones. So imagine that Walt Disney is working on Disneyland. That's a huge project, right? I think that project ballooned quite a bit. There were so many things they needed to do. So there was this plan for Disneyland that they built and they got it done and they had it ready for the launch date. But then you could imagine Walt Disney's next in line list where he had maybe Winnie the Pooh and Buzz Lightyear and Splash Mountain. Or maybe those weren't even in his consciousness at that time. But those would be like the next in line projects. And then someday it would maybe be Star Wars Land, right? Where now there's other things. I worked at Disneyland back when I graduated high school. It was like my first real job. And I loved it. I thought it was super fun. But what's so interesting is something like that didn't all happen in one day. It was the first project and then next in line and then someday. And you work a little bit at a time. And then over time, you end up with the whole thing. And it's still a work in progress. I know they still have things that they're innovating and preparing for the future. So just something to think about. Way to bring it back to Disneyland for a minute. A third idea to consider is that if that big ballooning project really can't be divided into multiple sub-projects, then you just need to take other current projects off your plate to make room for that big, huge one. The worst thing is to hold on to other projects in the hopes that you can do them all, because we know we can't. So I was trying to draw this. I may put my sketches on the show notes page, but I want you to imagine an elevator that can hold a maximum of 8 balloons / projects, okay? So I have a little stick figure standing in an elevator holding 8 balloons. If one of those balloons were to grow, right, this huge project, and if you leave all of those other 8 balloons, or the other 7 balloons in the elevator, well, some of them are going to pop because the elevator was only made to hold 8 balloons. So instead, what I recommend is you maybe take out 4, 5, 6 of those balloons that you have, the regular size ones, put those outside the elevator, have them in a little next in line, spot, and then just have a few with you there in the elevator with that big, huge one that actually fits. So, and you might be thinking, April, what are we talking about with elevators and balloons? The thing that I want to emphasize is I've personally found that 8 relatively normal size projects can fit on my list okay, as long as I don't have a lot of other routines going and as long as I'm healthy and strong and things are moving along well. If there's a ton happening in my life, I might go down to 1 to 3 projects, but 8 typically is the maximum that my brain can handle, and that's divided by me, my family, and then beyond, which is work or volunteer activities. So if one project, let's say for work, one project just balloons, I've got this huge work project, okay, I'm not going to do 7 other projects in addition to that. I've got to put them on the next in line list and just put my attention on what I can feasibly do. Unless you can, delegate, maybe you can hire someone to help, right? Something like that. Otherwise, you've got to say, hey, I only have so much bandwidth. What am I going to work on? And then put those priorities in place. The thing is, unexpected things happen all the time. And sometimes it's for the better. Sometimes something happens and it comes up and a project balloons and I think, this is terrible. And really it turned out to be great. Like it opened up a new opportunity or it did something for me that turned out to be fantastic. So, not every ballooning project is going to be a nightmare. We each need to use our discernment, but then we need to decide, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to adjust our workload? How are we going to remember we're human? How are we going to set ourselves up so we're healthy and strong and happy, still waking up excited, going to bed content? Okay, so I hope that's helpful for you. If you want to see if I put a picture of a balloon guy on the show notes page, then come to the show notes page. I love your comments. Either let me know if this is helpful for you or if you have further questions or if you have other ideas, things I didn't cover in the podcast, come share them on the show notes. That would be amazing. So glad that you're here with us. And if you haven't yet built your STEP system and you want a great current projects list and you want your whole command central moving forward, then please come visit us at learndobecome.com/step for our free training, how to finally stop drowning in piles, and we'll show you how to do that. Okay, so glad that you're here with us at Learn to Become. Also, make sure you come to the learndobecome.com/connect page. You can sign up to get an email from us each week featuring our free resources. You can find us on social media. You can see our free Facebook group and all the awesome stuff that we have going there for you. Learn to Become is an amazing community, and we're so glad you're a part of it. Okay, we'll see you soon. Have a great day.